Knowing where along your blade you want to make your parry is very important. And epee does follow the same sort of line as foil does in where along the blade you want to make contact when you're making those parries. So let's first take a look at our weapon. So with the epee, you have two distinct parts of the blade to bear in mind. From the center down to the guard, this is your strong, this is the fort of the blade. And then again from the center out to the barrel, to the tip, this is going to be your foible, the weak part of the blade. So when you are making your parries, you do not want to make a parry with the weak part of your blade. You don't have much control there. So as you noticed in the lesson, Kyle was not making parries with the weak part of his blade. He was always doing it from the center down because it gives him a lot more control. So when you make a parry, it's from the center down to the guard. This is where you want to make that action. It gives you more control, you don't have to exert as much energy, and your action is going to be a lot more successful. Now, in lesson 4, you're going to find out where you can make actions using the weak part of your blade, but when we're talking about defense, everything happens with the fort, the strong of your blade, never the weak. In lesson 3, we talked about parries, specifically parries 2, 4, and 6. However, I do want to point out that these are not all the parries in epee. Certainly not. We have all the same parries that foil happens to have. We simply don't use all of them, and especially when you're learning as a beginner, you really just need to focus on those 3. However, it is important to mention other parries. So if you're looking at parries, you have the 4, you have the 6. These are your high line for your inside and your outside, just like in foil. We have parry 2, that's for our low line, but we also have parry 7 and parry 8 in our low line as well, for inside and outside. There are also other parries. There's one where it's preen, number 1, preen. So we do have a number of parries, but when you're learning, you really just want to focus on those 3. When you make a parry in epee, you want to make sure it is a deep parry, especially when you're learning. You want to make sure that that blade cannot hit you. You did notice in some of that footage in lesson 3, Kyle was demonstrating deep parries, but I want to do it here too, just so you can have a complete view of it. So if I'm going to get attacked and I'm going to parry in 4, I'm not going to use my wrist, I'm not going to do a foil parry. Instead, I want to be in control, I'm going to do a deep parry. So yes, my arm is now exposed, but I've captured the blade here. You can see my point is still facing forward, and I can extend my arm to make the hit. Now, same thing in parry 6, if I'm getting attacked over here, I'm going to make a deep parry. I catch the blade, I'm still pointing forward, my point isn't out to the side, and then I can extend my arm and make that riposte. And the same thing with parry 2. If the action's coming in, you're just going to push down, you capture it, it's a very exaggerated parry, and then you just extend your arm and make the hit. So again, when you're making your parries, you want them to be deep, so that if your opponent makes a concerted effort to try and hit you, even though you parried, the blade's going to pass by you. It's not going to actually end up hitting you, and you'll get the point. When you're making your parry, one thing to take note of is that your hand is actually going to be doing a fair bit of movement from the wrist. And that allows your blade to be manipulated in a certain way so you have more control in your parry, and you can remain on target when you extend your arm for the riposte. So when you're in your on guard position and you make your parry, say I'm getting attacked in 4 and I want to make my parry in 4, you're going to see my hand rotate a little bit so that from the wrist, my thumb is pointing up to the side just a little bit. You'll see that it's no longer thumb pointing straight up. So again, I parry, the thumb is pointing to the side. Not all the way, just up a little bit. And if I'm going to parry in 6, it's going to kind of point up to the side. And the same thing, when you parry 2, your palm is going to face the floor and your thumb is going to point straight out. So again, if you're in the on guard position, watch the thumb. You're going to parry in 4. It's pointing out and up just a little bit. You're parrying in 6, out and up. And if you parry in 2, palm facing down, thumb just pointing out. Okay, so remember, when you're making the parries, don't lock your wrist. Don't try and keep it always with the thumb pointing up. It's going to limit your ability to parry, and it's going to make doing parry 2 impossible. So remember, the wrist has a job in those parries as much as your arm does.